arts, the self-defense principle of closing with and destroying the enemy for the purpose of self-defense. The basic idea of self-defense has to evolve around these principles of self-protection, principles over techniques. Techniques are punches, kicks, elbows, grappling, using weapons. All of those techniques are valid. All techniques work in different scenarios, different situations. What I want you to think about is shifting your mind first to set a foundation of principles of self-defense. The first one being that you have to have situational awareness, paying attention to what's happening around you. Second, being able to get into a better position. But then tonight we're talking about specifically closing with and destroying, which means coming in, immediate, direct, explosive. The shortest distance between those 2 points is that straight line, and your natural need to back up. You have to overcome that. You have to train that instinctive move out of yourself. People say that we have a fight or flight mechanism, right? We either run away or we stand and fight. What I found to be true, and what most people who study self-defense find to be true, is that there's a third way. Most people freeze. They freeze, or they even kind of recline a little bit or retreat a little bit. And when you do that, you're creating energy, you're creating space, you're creating time for the bad guy, for the thug, the bully, the punk to come in and just smash you, whether or not they have a tool like a stick, a weapon, a knife, a machete, a hatchet, or just pummel you with their fists, hit you with a chunk of concrete, a block of ice, a frozen water bottle. When you freeze or you retreat or recoil and you go into this type of position, which is very common, this is an instinctive stop, don't hit me move. When that happens, you expose all the vital spots and you give them that distance to accelerate the power of their strike, to hit you harder, to end your life, to take away your ability to live without paraplegia or whatever, either break your neck, put you in a coma. All those horrible things happen when you instinctively go into a defensive position like this. So I want you to train that out of yourself by practicing the principle of close with and destroy. And so this is a very hard thing to retrain your body with, but it's not impossible, and it's something that you can do if, when you do your self-defense training, you think about this and you put install the mental trigger in your head or the light switch, so that when you flip that, you can immediately go forward instead of going backward. And so the basic principle is just as simple as it sounds. Closing with, getting in as close as possible, and destroying, hitting with full speed, full commitment, full power, as much force as you can generate, using specifically techniques like elbows, palm strikes, elbows up, elbows sideways like this, horizontally, elbows straight down. Those are very effective tools. Knees, stomping the feet, smashing with the head, all of those techniques that you can also train, or you might have already trained, but applying those in that closest distance, but then doing it in a way with as much fury, as much power, as much explosiveness as you possibly can to try to end the strike with every single, or end the fight with every single strike, every single blow for self-defense. So you can practice on a bag. If you don't have a bag, don't use a bag. You can practice in the air, just in the space in front of you. It's really about flipping the switch in here. It's about visualization, and it's about getting into a better position, following all the other principles of self-defense that come before close with and destroy for self-defense. Number one being situational awareness. And this seems like an oversimplification, but so many people are missing that basic component. Pay attention to what's happening around you while it's happening, right? I'm in an area where there's a lot of homeless. There are some aggressive homeless and aggressive people who might not be homeless, but they're panhandling, they're asking for money, and they're everywhere. And every once in a while I'll get caught off guard. And then it's a quick reminder, hey, you better be paying attention. What if I had my kids with me? What if that was a more aggressive panhandler or somebody who's going to take advantage? So you have to put yourself in the mindset of constantly paying attention when you're outside of your safe place, when you're outside of your home. That starts with opening the door, looking around from side to side, see what's there, even if you've done it 1,000 times, especially if you've done it 1,000 times. You walk from the house, from the apartment, from your condo, from your room to the car, to the subway, to the bus. You have to stop and look, pay attention. Take your phone, stick it in your pocket, stick it in your bag, put it somewhere that you're not going to look at it. If you need to look at it to respond to a text or answer the phone or look at your map app or look something up, stop with your back against the wall and hold it up and look at it so that you can see what's around you. Situational awareness is always number one. It's just paying attention. Number two is when you do see the threat, get into a better position. If your hands are here and a punch is thrown, or someone tries to strike you with a knife, a weapon, some kind of stick, there's no way that your hands will ever be able to get up in time. It's just a fact. Your brain sends the message to your hands, get them up, and you might naturally swoon. They might miss you. I'm not saying that won't happen, but the likelihood of getting your hands from here into a protected position is almost zero. But if you start in this position, then you don't have to respond. You don't have to get them up. You're already there. You don't have to react to what's happening. You are already prepared. From here, then you can go into close with and destroy, or what I like to call immediate, direct, and explosive. Violence of action. Getting in there as hard and as fast as you can. And I want you to practice a technique where your hands are in this position and they're not facing out. They're kind of sideways a little bit, right? Your fingers are more together than they are apart. That's because a finger by itself will break. Together, they're very flexible. The thumb, same thing. If it's out here, it breaks. If it's here, it's a lot stronger. So your hands are mostly closed. They're together. Your elbows are bent. And just think of the bumper of your car in front of your body. And if they're right in front of you, your hands are up. You give a verbal command, back up, you're too close. But there'll be some point in self-defense where you may make that decision. You have to fight. You have to close with and destroy for self-defense. You will have no other choice. And you want to be the first one to move. You don't want to be trying to parry and block and catch and try to strip away a knife. If you're doing that, then you've waited too long. The first mover almost always wins in that violent confrontation. And this is violence. You're using violence to stop violence. In this position, you ask yourself the question, what will I remove or destroy on my opponent, on the attacker, that bad guy, that thug who's trying to take something from me, my life, my dignity, my freedom. My hands are up, and I look at him, and I think, I'm going to go for his eyesight. If he can't see me, he can't hurt me. And so from here, maybe it's a palm strike. Maybe I lead with this elbow coming straight in. Maybe I say, I'm going to try to knock him out, turn off that operating system, take his consciousness away. So I drive this elbow straight in, and that hard point of my elbow, that bony tip, just hits everything straight into his face. I'm covered up, and then I'm just driving those elbows as hard and as fast as I can, up, in, sideways, down over the top, coming up as hard as you can with violence of action. Or maybe you say, I'm going for his throat. I can take away his ability to breathe temporarily or permanently. Temporarily or permanently. So instead of coming in here through the face, I'm driving straight in here. I can turn and drive that in, or I hit him once, I drive this straight in, or I bring this arm right here, this hard part. And you don't have to have perfect aim. You can bring that edge of your hand, you can bring that fist in, straight into the throat. And even if you don't remove his ability to breathe permanently, you can create enough force, enough fear in his mind. He has to retreat, he has to back up, and you just keep pressing the attack. It's close with and destroy for self-defense. These are principles of self-defense. If you're in that situation where you don't have a choice, again, you want to be the first person to move. That's just a principle of self-defense. You're in this better position. You've already done the paying attention to what's happening around you. But what happens if you're caught off guard and they're coming from the side or they're coming from the back, or you've been hit already in the back of the head and you stumbled and your vision is off a little bit, and then you realize you've got to turn and face the attack? You're still going to close with and destroy for self-defense. That means if you get hit, you know you're in a fight. You know you're now, and it's not a fight, it's an attack. Fight is the wrong word because it sounds like you're in a boxing match or you're in a grappling match or you're in the cage, you're doing UFC. It's not. If someone's hitting you with a weapon, someone's attacking you, punching with a fist, trying to knock you out, trying to take away something, your life, your dignity, your freedom, and they're trying to hurt you and harm you, it's not a competitive event. It's life or death in that case. And so when that first strike comes in and you turn, then there's nothing else to think about. It's immediately close that distance. How do you close the distance? You move your feet. Move your feet forward. If you are standing in this position, it's kind of squared up, and you step in, that makes your body a smaller target. Your hands are up in this position. You can always lead with the elbows. This is also protecting your head, and it has the benefit of forcing you to keep your hands here so that the sides, the outside of your arm is exposed and not the inside of your arm. You don't want to cut that muscle. You don't want to cut those tendons or cut those veins, those arteries in there and bleed out. You want to be able to protect that. You want to be able to fight with those. And when you bring it in here, you have the value or the protection for your head, but you also have the protection for all these vital spots. You're covering up your heart, your lungs. You're driving in here, but then once you're close, you're adding elbows. You're adding elbows coming up. And one way to add a lot of extra striking force is to put your hand on like this. Jimmy says, always think self-defense, not what others think. Absolutely, self-defense. So from here, I close this, and now I've created leverage. Now I'm stronger on all my elbow strikes. I'm stronger if I bring it straight up under his chin, if I bring it down on top of his jaw, into his nose, into the top of his head, into his neck. I don't even have to hit him here. I can drive this right on the top of that rib cage and split that open, or drop him with so much force, separate that collarbone or that the sternum, break the collarbone, bring it inside, drive it in, drop the body, drive that tip of that elbow with your whole force of your body. And this is the basic principle of self-defense again. You want to make yourself a smaller target, hands up, cover up a little bit, closing with and destroy for self-defense, but also moving your body with your feet. A lot of people will lean in with their punches or lean in with just their body because we don't think about how to move like an athlete. As a self-defense athlete, you have to train yourself. This is where training comes in, by stepping with your feet. Step, and when you go forward, your step, your left foot's forward, it's left, right. If you go back, it's right, left. So that's something you'll practice. Practice that slow. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Do it again and again and again. And you start to train yourself to respond the way that you want to respond. You'll either prepare or you'll panic. You'll prepare or you'll perish. If you don't prepare in self-defense, when the stuff hits the fan, you don't have many options. So you want to close with and destroy for self-defense. As a basic principle of self-defense, you have to practice stepping. As you're stepping, think about driving, turning the shoulders and hips, extending into. Anytime you have extension, rotation, and you're moving your body, you have that stopping power, power to stop the violent assault. Self-defense is all about stopping the violent assault against you. And you're going to use your body, what you have, not to be competitive against a younger person, a bigger person. That's a fight. We're not fighting, we're not competing, we're not going for a trophy. You're going to use violence. In the basic principle that his throat, that cartilage in there, that's going to crush under the same pressure that yours is. So it doesn't matter if he's a big, bulky, muscular, younger, faster, more athletic person, you're not going to be competing, boxing, trading punches. You're coming in with that elbow, going for his soft spot, into the throat, into the solar plexus, into that soft tissue between the belly button and the private parts. Going in and breaking the ribs, striking those low ribs, those floating ribs that will detach and go into his lungs. And he's spitting up blood. You're driving them up. And again, anytime you close this hand, you bring this around, you have a lot more leverage on all of these strikes, coming down, coming up, coming straight in, and then striking in this way. And you're going against soft tissue, his nose, his teeth, his mouth, his throat, his eyes, in boxing his ears, smashing the ears. Anything you can do to close with and destroy. So quick review. Number one principle of self-defense, situational awareness. Pay attention to what's happening while it's happening around you. The worst distraction in the world right now for everybody, for most people, is a screen. Put that screen in your pocket. Don't look at it. And if you have to, stop with your back against the wall, lift it up, look at it, respond, put it away, and then pay attention. What's coming? What's around you? Where's the threat? Who's going to hurt you? Who's going to try to remove your freedom, your life, your dignity? Take your stuff, and then be prepared for that. Get out of there if you can. If you don't have to fight, you never want to fight. If you don't want to have a violent confrontation with somebody, don't. That's the worst thing in the world. You're going to have injuries. You're going to be hurt, or you're going to hurt somebody else. You don't want either one of those. So if you can avoid it, avoid it. That only comes when you're paying attention. Number two, you don't have a choice. Get in a better position. If you see it, hands up and open, put them between you and the threat. This is a pattern interrupt. It interrupts his line of sight. He has to make a decision. Do I continue to try to hurt this person? He's not going to punch your hands. He's got to move around to hit you. Now, when you realize you don't have a choice because maybe you've already been hit and now you're responding to it, or you see that look in the eye or he's coming closer, you're not going to wait. You're going to then move first. That's a principle of self-defense. Whoever moves first has the chance. Normally, 90% of the time, they're going to win the fight for self-defense. So you're going to drive your body, elbows, fists, palm strikes, all the techniques, doesn't really matter. After you ask yourself the question, what are you going to remove or destroy? His eyesight, his nose, his ability to breathe, his ability to hear, his ability to stand up, his ability to stand on his feet without his world crashing down around him. And if you don't start immediately, if you hesitate, the longer you give time to that situation, more confidence he's going to have and the more fear you're going to have. Time feeds fear. Time feeds insecurity. Time feeds feelings of depression and anxiety. So take action. Immediate action is drive those elbows straight into his face, into his nose, into his throat. Whatever is the answer to the question, what am I going to remove or destroy? If you decide to go for his throat, immediately go for the throat. Then don't stop until the fight's over. Fight's not over until you win. You're throwing elbows for self-defense. You're throwing them up, you're throwing them down, you're throwing knees, palm strikes if you have to. Try to avoid punching with the fist. It's not a fist fight. You don't want to break the knuckles, break the hand. That happens so often. You want to use what you have that are the strongest things that you have, your elbows, your knees, and your whole body coming in behind it. That's the principle. Move your body to generate stopping power, knockout power. You want to move the body. You want to rotate the shoulders and the hips. And you want to extend the striking arm, the elbow, or the shoulder, whatever it is that you're hitting them with, that has to extend and rotate as you're stepping forward. And then you just press the attack. Think of the term violence of action, the violence of your action. Applying the violence for self-defense into his face, into his throat, into his eyes, his nose, his mouth, and then train yourself to get into this position and step. You want to try to visualize. Your hands are up and open. You give the verbal command, back up, you're too close. Don't come any closer. And then you're straight in. And then when you're in, you're not done until the fight's over. And visualize in your head what would happen as he moves back, as he's being struck. And if you have a partner and you can do this role playing, that's perfect. You don't have to beat each other. One person is the aggressor, one person is the attacker, one person is the thug, the punk, the bad guy, and the other person is defending himself or herself, and then you go slow and you go through the motion and you go full extension, full rotation. The other person is acting out what's happening as they're being struck, and then you're creating mental anchors. You're creating that little flip, that little switch that you can flip right in the head, that when you have to, you turn it on, and then you're ready to apply the principle of close with and destroy. Violence of action, immediate, direct, explosive, and go all in, go full force, full speed, everything that you can do until you are safe, until it's over, until you're done. If you can run, run. If you can hide, hide. But when you have to fight, know how to fight for self-defense. It's not the same as a boxer. You can use the principles of boxing, which is moving your body, guarding your head, protecting your head, right? Those are all great principles of boxing. You can use the techniques of boxing, punching, you can use the footwork of boxing, but don't forget to apply the self-defense principles, because it's a whole different thing. It's not a boxing match. It's not UFC, it's not jiu-jitsu, it's not Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it's not Krav Maga, it's self-defense. Self-defense is only self-defense. It's totally different than martial arts. There's crossover. We train with the same techniques, we use a lot of the same principles, but there are unique principles. Number one is always situation awareness. Number two, always better position. Number three, what will I remove or destroy? And when you take a deep breath, that calms you, the oxygen gets into your blood, your muscles relax, your brain relaxes, you see the bigger picture just with a quick little breath. What will I remove or destroy? That's also a mental anchor. That's preparing yourself for the self-defense fight. As soon as you have to, and you know, and like I said, if you get hit from behind or you see them coming in, they're coming in from the blind side, there's no more question. You don't have to wait to try to block the technique. You don't have to wait till the knife comes out and it's stuck in you 14 times all over your body before you think about, what am I going to do with the knife? As soon as you realize you're in that dangerous situation, That's when you apply this principle of self-defense, which is close with and destroy. And then remember, apply violence of action, use elbows, use knees, use hands. And Richard says, hey, Richard, it's good to see you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thanks for the thumbs up. This one, I wanted to throw this in. This is the beginning of a new series. I'm going to do these series of the self-defense principles. We're going to talk about each principle, and these are going to be rough. I'm going to be rambling. I'm going to be trying to make my point. And you guys, I'd love your feedback. I love when you guys say, hey, I picked this up out of it. I didn't pick up. I wasn't sure what you meant by that. So please give me that thumbs up or thumbs down. Give me feedback, and I'm going to continue to do more of these. If you like this topic, give me the thumbs up. And then in the comments section, give me the thumbs up. What else you want to work on? I'm going to bring in some people to work with so that we can show some of these things and how they work. And we'll talk both about the principles of self-defense, and then we'll talk about some techniques that you can use, which are very effective for self-defense. But it's all self-defense. It's not going to be boxing. It's not going to be martial arts. It's not Krav Maga. It's not MMA. It's not Kung Fu. It's not weapons. Sometimes we're going to use weapons. We're going to use improvised weapons, right? What can you fight with for self-defense? What is the most effective self-defense tool? And when we do that, then it's going to become a discussion. So when we have these discussions together, and like I said, I'm struggling through these as I'm getting my head around this new idea, this new topic. This is something that I'm being asked to do almost daily now. Can you teach more self-defense? Will you teach more self-defense? And I said, I've been teaching self-defense for 35 years. It's evolved so much. Back in the day, I had these big red man suits. We put them on, head to toe armor, big cage on the face, things to protect your neck. And you get in there, and I have 2 or 3 friends from the police department come, and then we'd all be attacking the people in different scenarios, turn the light on, turn the light off. You're on the ground, you're standing, and it was a fight. Boom, 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 boom. And we did elbows, knees, and at the end of it, people were still leaving, and they thought, I can't defend myself. What happens if he's younger? What happens if he's bigger? What happens if he's crazy? This isn't enough. And it evolved, and I ran into things like Tony Blauer's SPEAR program, in the SPEAR program and different places that I've seen it, right? And then more recently, Tim Larkin in the last 5 or 6 years, and then I read his book, When Violence is the Answer. And then all the people that he comes from this world of self-defense. It's a whole different concept. And the old stuff that we did, I knew instinctively it didn't work, right? And it never worked. But we did it because it seemed to make sense. It's just like every once in a while, I'll be saying something and then I'll check with someone else and they'll say, no, that doesn't work because of this. Like someone on the outside of martial arts. Like I'll say, oh, we need to stretch like this. And then I go and I talk to the doctor of physical therapy and he says, don't do it like that. You're going to hurt yourself. And I'm like, oh, that's why it hurts. He says, do it this instead. And then all of a sudden, you learn something new. And if you stay a student, you're always going to learn something new. So this is what I want us to be. I want us to have this relationship on this channel where in the comment section, you can put your thoughts, your ideas, what you know, what you've learned, because it's a community. And then I'll put in what I know. I'm going to go talk to more smarter people than me. I've been teaching this style of self-defense now for about 8 or 9 years. It's a lot more effective. People who've gone through this course now are giving me the feedback. They feel more confident. They feel just the one piece of situational awareness and taking that breath and thinking, how would I respond in this situation? How would I use violence against the other person to stop this? That alleviates so much fear for so many people. So I'm getting tons of feedback in the last 8 or 9 years where this is the right direction. We haven't touched the red man suits. I left them in Ohio and didn't bring them down here with me because we don't use them anymore. It used to be that it was the hardest class that I'd come out of there drenched in sweat with a headache or concussion every time because I get beat in the head with all these different people running through. And again, instinctively, I knew it was missing something big. The missing pieces were the SPEAR program coming out of Tony Blauer. And that's how this thing works. It's an evolution. And then Tim Larkin's ideas, and he brought them out of another group that was doing similar things. But he evolved it, and he refined it, and he made it better. And so we're going to make it better when you go in the comment section and you comment on each other's comments, not fighting, not like, you see on so many other things, but a discussion. As much of a discussion, share with friends, hey, what do you think about this idea? You're looking for self-defense. This guy's doing self-defense. We're doing self-defense together, and we're going to do more of these. But we're going to keep it focused on these principles because principles win over techniques every time. Techniques get you killed. Principles will save your life. We're going to principle. Today's principle, was close with and destroy. I'm going to try to do one on each one of these basic principles. We're going to start to refine it. I'm going to get better at it with your help, and I'll see you guys in a little bit.